There's always that awkward start moment when I don't know if it's actually going. I think it's going. Um, I have been using this streaming software called OBS, and it's really good. And I'm hoping that my camera quality looks great because I am using the GoPro. And I think I finally have figured it out. I think so. So we'll see how it goes. I am just noticing though that my chat box is not up, and it was up before, but that's okay. Um, in any case, thank you so much for being here. Welcome back to my live to Wedding Planning Wednesdays. My name is Jane Yu. I am a wedding and event planner based in Los Angeles, but I can really plan events anywhere. But my uh, purpose of these lives is to support engaged couples planning and designing their wedding from beginning to end, hopefully keeping their stress levels to a minimum, their enjoyment to a maximum. And I like to provide step-by-step guidance along their planning journey. I don't know about you, but I feel like it's really easy these days, just with social media and content, to just get really lost um, in the approach of let's do it for the content. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that per se, because I think content is very important to a lot of people. But I think there's a way to balance the essence of the event and also capturing moments. Because I think, it happens during both special moments and just like everyday occurrences, even like on a personal level, right? I love creating content for my personal page, like food and travel and lifestyle and things like that. But sometimes I'm like, I don't want to get so lost in just capturing it and making sure I get the footage and things like that. I want to be able to enjoy the moments. And yes, it's fun, I think, to be able to see like what the next big trend is on social media and whatever people or brands are trying to sell or demonstrate or whatever. But sometimes with weddings, it's I do feel like the core kind of essence or values can get lost when it's really for the content or for something more or for something different outside of what the wedding is really about. The reason I was thinking about this is because I saw an Instagram post of another, I think it was another planner or just a wedding blog. And I saw a post with the seating chart. It was really beautiful. It was very impactful in terms of design. And, people stopped to look at it, but it was printed on fabric or embroidered maybe, and the text was really small and in script, and the fabric was moving and it was sheer. And so when I saw the video, I was like, oh, this is really cool and beautiful. But then I started thinking, can people really see it? And the few clips that I saw of people stepping up to it and walking past it or whatever, I felt like people didn't really know like what it was for or what was on it. Or if they did, they just couldn't be bothered to like stop and like find their name and things like that. And so to me, I was just really wondering, like, I'm not trying to be negative about the design or whatever, because I thought it was so beautiful, but I was just left wondering, like, could people actually read this? Did they have a secondary, like, seating chart that people could look at in the event that they weren't able to read this or whatnot? So it kind of got me thinking, because sometimes I feel like, bold aesthetic choices are great. I love them, especially if it makes a statement and an impact and evokes emotion like from the guest, but not to the point where it's going to overshadow the function, especially in a case like this. And it just got me thinking, because I was thinking about like luxury weddings, like that element probably wasn't cheap to create. It definitely was a custom piece of sewn fabric, printed or embroidered or whatnot. And it was beautiful. And it was obviously a very luxury wedding, because I know this planner does high-end weddings. But the reality of it is a lot of what is seen at luxury weddings on social media is not really a reality that most people can afford. And I understand there's like a lot of pressure to show up. And I did speak with a potential client once that they wanted to do the most. Like they were definitely very wealthy. They wanted to spend upwards of $400K on their wedding, which is amazing for me, like a great opportunity for me because I was just thinking about all the things that I could do with that kind of budget. But the sentiment that I got from that couple, who ultimately didn't end up going with me, but they really wanted to kind of outdo past friends' weddings, or they didn't want to show up shabby, and which is fair, I suppose. And if you have the money and you want to spend it, that's great. But at the same time, I felt like my approach didn't really align with their sentiment and with that thinking, because I feel like that's not really what a wedding is about. Of course, you want to show up and like make sure everyone has a great time and all of that, but to do it to try to be the best or whatnot, that just didn't sit completely in line with me personally. And so I was just thinking about all these things as I was writing this live, or just thinking about what to talk about, because I think what I want to get at is just getting back to the core values of your wedding. And I don't think it has to be any kind of budget or any kind of scale, or any kind of style, really. It's just figuring out what really matters and the meat of what matters. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about that today. Because I do feel like even for me as a business owner, as a small business owner, as a wedding planner, I'm always feeling not pressured, but I do want to show, hey, I can do this. Like I can do these things. And that's why you want to hire me, because I can do great design. I can do great logistics. Like I have relationships with vendors. Like I have all this expertise. And it's like this pressure, constant pressure to like show up, show up, show up. And even with like social media, with views and things like that, I feel like there's just pressure all the time to like how much engagement am I getting and all of that. And it's not quite the same in weddings, but I do feel like sometimes for people getting married, some people, I wouldn't be surprised if they do feel that pressure, because there's just so much out there, and you might feel like you're not doing enough because you see all these other people doing so much, or what seems like so much on social media. And that's not to say simplicity is better than being bold and making a statement with your wedding. It's just making sure that whatever you're doing, it's grounded in you and your partner and the way you want to show up for your day. And so I just wanted to talk about some things to consider while you're planning your own wedding, and maybe things that you're seeing on social media or Pinterest or whatever is not quite resonating with you, and you're kind of not sure why. And so these are just some things that you can think about and just, let it sit with you for a little bit, just so you can kind of get back to the right reasons for you when planning your wedding. And so I think the first thing is, don't get lost in the trends of what you see on social media. I do love following a good trend. I think there's obviously year to year, there's trends that come back. There's trends that just don't work for me or for couples. And then there's definitely fun trends that you can tap into. I do feel like a lot of the trends, it's obviously design driven a lot of the time, program driven or content driven. But I would say, don't just do it for that. I think if especially I think with Gen Z, I think TikTok videos and reels, like that's like a pretty big deal, and like not a pretty big deal, but a very big element of their lives, of that generation. And does this make me sound really old? Because I'm okay. Like, I'm not that much older than Gen Z, but like, I didn't grow up the way Gen Z did with phones and social media, right? And so obviously, like, capturing moments and certain things is going to be important for Gen Z, and which is the generation that's getting most of whom are getting married now. But I think if you're focusing on getting that moment and like spending so much time during the wedding to get that moment, I think you're going to lose what's the word, like just staying present in a lot of those moments. And so, I mean, there's ways to definitely get around it, but I wouldn't do it just for the TikTok trend or to go viral or whatever, or to like completely fabricate or stage a scene just to get that video. I think, I would think twice about that. If it fits naturally into your day, or maybe you hired a content creator to be able to do it. And I think, of course, hiring the professionals to do what they do best is always the way to go. But yeah, I would definitely just tread lightly and think about like what's really important to you. Why do you want to capture it? What's that really going to if that really gives you joy, then okay, then I understand that. I'm not saying it's all bad. I'm just saying to just think about it, and if it's going to be worth taking the time and energy from a day that already goes by so quickly. Number two, it's okay to want to be like standard. I know in this day and age too, and maybe it's just because I am in the industry, and I am in LA, which is a very creative city, and people always really want to show up and show out. And I think I love an unconventional approach to a wedding. I love non-traditional ideas, but I don't ever want people to think that traditions are here like should be done with, because I think there's a lot of beauty in tradition. There's a lot of comfort in tradition. There's beauty in familiarity, like leaning into the things that are customary or cultural or whatever, because that is what makes weddings, right? And so you don't always have to feel pressured to make such groundbreaking or out of the box decisions for your wedding, because it's okay to want something simple. It's okay to be standard, or maybe you just want it to be complete, like just forget all the formalities. Maybe you just want to just be there with your family and friends. And I love the smallest of moments, and I love the biggest of moments if it makes sense for the couple and if that is going to make them happy. I just hate to see it when I feel like couples feel pressured to show up in a way that doesn't feel like them. And I always encourage my clients to, it's a personal preference, to not ask the question like, hey, what is standard? But like, hey, what is going to be, like, what is standard? And do I want to keep that standard or use that standard? Or maybe I don't want to even do that, or maybe I want to flip it on its head. And so I think giving people the freedom to think what is best for them and what their personal preferences are goes a long, long way. And I don't want to make it seem like, oh, I don't want like people to make bold choices or go over the top, because I'm all for that too. It just really depends on who the person is. For example, I have a floral designer friend who John was a DJ for. I was at the wedding, I was helping him, and it was super fun. It was very bold. There were a lot of over the top moments. Like, she fabricated this giant cake that she came out of for the ceremony and had giant big bows everywhere. And it was so on par with who she is, because she is a creative through and through. And, she is more of I want to say, I don't know, she's not just a floral designer. Like, she doesn't work with just florals. Like, she creates experiences, like with her designs, with florals, with textures, with like different types of things. And so it totally made sense that she had this incredibly themed, incredibly over the top design choices, and I really, really loved it, and it just really felt like her. I think I've definitely worked with clients who just feel like they have to do something that they don't want to do because of family or because they feel like that's what's right. And I think that's what I'm trying to get at, is you don't have to do that. And I think it's okay for you to not want to adhere to certain things, or adhere to certain things, you know? So I think it's okay either way, but just figuring out what is best for you. And the last thing is, I love a good aesthetic. I love design elements. I love getting creative with my clients. But I think I would say don't sacrifice function for a pretty picture, right? Like, yes, you want it to look good. And sometimes, like, you know, especially like starting out, there were definitely designs or things that we created that I felt like fell flat on the wedding day. Maybe it was like miscommunication with vendors, or maybe the vendors were overstretched and they didn't hear what I really wanted to execute. And so sometimes that can be disappointing. But at the same time, even if it fell flat a little bit design-wise, it still served its purpose. And so as long as this item serves its purpose, I think that's like the most important, especially for things that are supposed to serve a function. For example, the seating chart that I was talking about, it was pretty, but I'm not sure that it actually served its function to the fullest degree that it should have or could have. And disclaimer, I didn't see like the full video. I only saw a few people like walk up to it seeming confused, walking past it and all of that. But, you know, I'm just thinking if I were a guest or if I was there, I don't think it would have been able to, I don't think it was legible, to be honest, or visible. So I wouldn't sacrifice function for just a pretty picture. I think, you know, if it's something that you really want, I think I say this for people who might be like in the middle, for people who are not sure what decisions to make, like, oh, should I spend more money to make this aesthetically so much more, or is it good enough because it serves its purpose, kind of thing. And I think it's like, it doesn't necessarily mean more budget the better or the bigger the better. I think it's just a matter of personal preference, your personal style, and it doesn't have to be expensive or not expensive for it something to serve its purpose. So that's kind of where I'm going at, because some people have like very strong style, what's the word, inclinations? I don't know. Strong style instincts. That is not the word. Sense, or whatever it is. Strong sense of individual style, right? Like some people have a really, what's the word? Strong sense of style for themselves, and they know what they want their wedding to look like, and they know that they want something to be such and such, and that's great. But I think I'm talking more to the people who are unsure of like how to show up, like if it should be something or should be another thing. And I think that's what I'm trying to get at, is nothing should be anything. I think you just have to think about like what you really want, the purpose of this item or element, how you want your wedding to feel, so that you can figure out, you know, the value of the wedding is really just being with family and friends and celebrating your love in no matter shape or form. So I think that's basically, you know, all to say, like couples, you know, staying true to themselves outside, regardless of the outside pressures that they may be feeling because of family or friends or even what they see online. Because even for me as a planner, I do feel pressure to, you know, have like the next best idea all the time or next big idea. And yes, I still want to push myself and do all that, but not just for the sake of doing that. I hope that made sense. And, you know, I think, you know, maybe this is a little bit of a self-projection just from like, myself as well, just working with clients, like creating my own content for the business. But I just wanted to not get lost in, I didn't want the essence of weddings to get lost in just, the next big idea or the next trend. And so that's really what I was trying to get at today. And I hope that was helpful. And if you're tired of second guessing your next step, like what you're supposed to do next, even beyond that, I do have my free wedding planning guide that you can download at tinyurl.com/best wedding guide. It's a step-by-step timeline and task list, just from beginning to end. It encompasses about a year's worth of tasks. And I try to break it down into phases, a few months at a time so that it's not so overwhelming. But it's a PDF that you can download. And if you like it, you can also check out my digital wedding planner, which has a bunch of Google Sheets templates, just intended to help you plan your wedding step by step. It's very no frills, very straightforward. And I hope that today's session was helpful for you. If you were feeling really distracted by everything that's out there, I hope this kind of helped you get back to center and get back to the foundation of planning your wedding, planning your wedding in a way that you can show up authentically as yourself and unapologetically as yourself as well. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next week. I will be talking about next week about why hiring professionals is so important, because it's very important.